Expand your mind and enrich your world. It's time for another outstanding podcast from ICRT.
Hello and welcome to another podcast edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm Keith Manconi. For writers and publishers in Taiwan who, unlike most Chinese speakers, work entirely with traditional Chinese characters, font choices are pretty limited. According to Chinese font service Justfont, in the past 10 years, only 5 Chinese fonts have been created in Taiwan. And that's pretty limiting if you want to create a distinct style for your magazine or even your blog. And so to up those options just a bit, it launched a crowdfunding campaign to pay for the design of a brand new traditional font. Now, this is no cheap task. With so many characters to design, the company was asking for more than 1.5 million NT to complete the project. But here's the part that makes this worth talking about on the radio and not just the professor's lounge in a liberal arts college. The campaign blasted through that goal within an hour of its launch, and it has to date raised more than 20 million NT. That's an awful lot of font fans out there. I spoke recently with Justfont co-founder Winston Su to learn more about what the company is trying to accomplish here and why it's catching on. Winston Su, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, Keith, and everybody.
So, most of what your company works on is solving kind of a technical problem. It's something that maybe some of our listeners have run into. What happens is, you look at a page of text on one computer, and then you go to a different computer, and it looks totally different because they're both using different fonts. So that's what really your company is focusing on, is you've kind of found a solution to that. You found a way to make those fonts look the same from computer to computer and device to device. But really what's interesting you, and I've read a couple interviews with you, and I think what's underlying your interest here is that you just want to promote fonts in Chinese and raise awareness about the importance of fonts and what you can do with them. Is that right?
Yeah. It's actually the story is just like this. When our founder firstly funded Justfont in 2012, he found a very serious problem. He has developed a technology called web font, Chinese web font, but he came to realize that nobody cares about fonts here in Taiwan. So even though we have brilliant technology, but nobody understands its value. So that's why I'm in this team, and to promote the awareness and the recognition on fonts. That's the beginning of the story.
Let's just talk about this campaign that you've been running. So
Yes.
You have this crowdfunding campaign that's been very successful so far.
Yep.
And tell me a little bit about what you're going to do with that money. So you're going to make a new font.
Yeah. And basically, making Chinese fonts are the idea of making Chinese font sounds easy because normal people can write characters. Mm-hmm. But making Chinese font is a different story. Mm-hmm. It would require a group of people who devote their full time on this particular enterprise. Take it, for example, there are typically 12,000 characters. I mean, actually, it was actually 13,000 Chinese characters inside a single font. And you cannot rely on computer to build that font because computer don't understand what is visual balance. Mm-hmm. You need people to do this. You need experienced designers to complete such font. And what is interesting is a experienced designer can only design 10 Chinese characters in a single day.
So if you do the math, that's a lot of days.
Yeah, if you do the math, you could imagine just how long only one Chinese font need to complete. So time is money.
Yeah.
That's why we need such capital to make it happen.
Right. Well, you've gotten a whole lot of that capital, and so tell me a little bit about the font that you're trying to design right now.
Okay. The name of the font is Jingshen, and Jingshen is the name actually derives from a tea. A tea stain. The name of the tea is Jingshen, and Jingshen is a kind of oolong tea. And if you understand little about tea, oolong is somewhere between black tea and green tea. And let's just remember the quality of between. Being between is a very important idea in this font, because the font of Jingshen is actually a combination of Ming tea and Hei tea. You could just imagine Ming tea as serif typeface and Hei tea as sans serif typeface. And Jingshen is a mixture of them.
Okay, so it's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. So we illuminate that idea via the term Jingshen. And this is quite interesting because in a typical Chinese font naming, it's quite boring. For example, Taiwanese, especially for Taiwanese people, Taiwanese people might be quite familiar with the naming of like Zhong Hei tea, medium sans serif, Zhong Ming tea, medium serif, and that could just tell us what kind of typeface it is, but it cannot illuminate its quality, its specialty, and what it conveys to people. So we use that special term of Jingshen to illuminate such idea of being between two kinds of typeface.
So it gives it a little bit of character.
Yeah.
And so help us understand, how would you expect people to use this typeface? What are the contexts in which people would be able to use this?
Okay. What kind of context? Is it Jingshen? It's actually it gives people a laid-back feeling, an informal feeling, but it's also contemporary. So my thinking is, if you have you can use it in a relatively contemporary topic and laid-back and more kind of laid-back topic in your work. Yeah, that's the basic setting of Jingshen typeface. Contemporary, laid-back.
And so this would be for maybe a magazine or some kind of publication that is a little less formal?
Yeah, less formal, less laid-back, and
but still wants to be modern.
Yeah, it's modern, and like fashion magazine, they could use such typeface to illuminate the idea of modernness, the contemporary. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's how this specific font, you kind of what you have in mind for this. But now let's get into why this project was needed in the first place, because you explain on your website that really right now people just don't have too many options when they want to choose a font for traditional characters in Chinese.
Yeah, it is actually like this. During the past 15 years, Chinese local font companies, they have changed their targets because they no longer find it profitable, because people no longer purchase font. They download fonts from the internet. So and
just like the music industry,
just like the music and film and gaming industry, they as the advent of internet era, they need to figure out another way to make money, and the solution of these companies was turn their target into other countries such as Japan, mainland China, or they make fonts for bigger companies like Samsung and Apple. The fonts you see in their devices were actually produced by such company. They make fonts for your cell phone so you can read and use these texts on your device. So that caused a serious problem. Is people have no options for this particular era because fonts where the style of the font stuck in like 15 years ago. It's a bit like a in the 90s style, in late 80s, 90s style.
Because it's all corporations making these decisions. It's not designers. It's not magazine publishers. It's these multi-billion-dollar corporations deciding what font is going to look like.
Yeah, exactly. They're the only one who has the resources, the human resources and capital to make such thing happen.
And so that's kind of a big part of your campaign. You were talking a second ago about how a lot of the money is in Japan or a lot of the money is in China. And that's a part of the message that you're getting across here is that traditional characters are a very Taiwanese thing, and Taiwan should have some options when it's choosing what font is going to be used.
Yes, exactly. We should have our own options because sometimes Taiwanese people are quite proud of the preservation of traditional Chinese because obviously we're one of the few places where people still using such character, and we were using it every day in our daily life. So it is just unimaginable that we don't have our own fonts. And it seems that the only way to make it happen is not to find some venture capital to invest on us, because there are no such venture capital who would want to invest in font, because that obviously can make money. So we came to the idea of crowdfunding. Maybe through this year's promotion, education, there are a certain group of people who would like to support this idea and the product. So that's how the entire project came to being.
And right, so you have found apparently a lot of people do care about this in Taiwan.
Yes.
Let's go back even before this campaign. Actually, maybe your group did a fair amount last year as well to raise consciousness about what fonts can do in the history of fonts. You released a book, so tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, the book, the name of the book is A Chinese Font Walk.
Okay.
In Chinese, it's 自行散步. Okay, what's in the content of the book is quite interesting. We don't make it very academic. We make it like popular science. We could say the popular typography inside this book. And I have observed a very interesting phenomena is normal people. They were neither designers or engineers. They don't actually work with fonts, but they also find the book interesting because I guess it's because fonts are everywhere in our daily life, but we don't know the story behind such creation. So that's why I think normal people, non-professional people that's why they are also interested in our book.
So it was really about opening up the story behind why we use this kind of font in this dictionary and this kind of font here. What's the history there?
Yeah, what is the history and what is the story behind the entire thing?
Yeah. In researching the book, do you think you could tell us one of the stories that you uncovered that surprised you?
We have, in one of the article, we have discussed what is the most typical style, typeface. What is the most typical style of typeface here in Taiwan? And we have found out that the most typical typeface in Taiwan is actually kaiti. To many people's surprise, because kaiti is actually a very normal, some people might think it is not fashionable and old style and outdated style here. And obviously, many designers don't like it, don't like the typeface of kaiti. But we have to say it's still the most typical one on the street of Taiwan, on the street of any city in Taiwan. Yeah, and traditional kaiti, we have found it beautiful. Were actually quite beautiful, but digitized kaiti were not so beautiful. But people normally see digitized kaiti Yeah, that's the problem, and quite interesting story that our book have discovered.
And so how did that become the dominant typeface?
Because some people, especially scholars, they believe that kaiti represents the two of the very important Confucius spirit of compassion and generosity. And if you look back into 1950s, if were pictures or in movies, you could see, or documentaries, you can see that on the street of Taipei or even other cities in Taiwan, the most common typeface is kaiti because apparently our ancestors believe that it can represent a noble, a noble spirit.
Oh, okay. So it kind of got associated with all of these good values.
Good values.
I see.
Yeah.
But now it looks kind of outdated.
Yeah, it looks outdated,
especially in the digitized form.
Let's go back to the Jinshen topic. It does not look contemporary, and our designers seldom use such typeface on fashion magazines or even on user interface. Kaiti is not a appropriate typeface for these occasions. So that's why we need to keep doing this. We need to keep designing fonts to meet contemporary needs. But if we go back to the kaiti issue, kaiti is still, for me, quite important because it represents our traditional values. We have to preserve it and to educate people its beauty, the beauty of kaiti. But and at the same time, we still need to produce more new fonts to cope with new needs.
So it's not about completely getting rid of all of this history. It's about giving people more options.
Yeah, it's giving people more options, obviously.
Just so our listeners can really understand the practical issues that we're talking about here. So you're saying that right now, designers, individuals, just anybody who's doing any kind of writing, they just don't have as many options as maybe they need. Can you talk about what kind of constraints that puts on people? Why does it matter that they don't have more options? What is that keeping them from doing?
We could see that's how font designers see fonts. We should see font design as a kind of industrial design. There are like so many chairs, so many kinds of chairs, so many kinds of desks, or so many kinds of lighting. The same way for fonts, if we design a desk, that is to solve the reason why we design a special product is to solve a problem. And if you lack options, if you are in lack of options of fonts, you will find yourself not able to express a certain meaning. Such as when we discuss about the style of Jinshen, we talk about it is the style of 2015. Because we find out that designers in Taiwan, they don't have pretty much option when they want to express the idea of being contemporary. They have to look outside of Taiwan. They find Japanese fonts. They find fonts from Hong Kong because they're more contemporary. But they do have some other issues, like there are certain characters that you are not able to find in Japanese fonts.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So that's why we have to design our own fonts for this certain era, because fonts fonts are tools. If you don't have such tools, you're not going to solve the problem. Yeah.
And so right now you're really focusing on this Jinshen font.
Yep.
Of course, you raised a lot more money than you expected to raise, and so you're going to make even more versions of this Jinshen font than you originally thought. You said 5?
I should say it's a font family.
A font family, yeah.
Yeah, there are 5 members inside this family. In typographical term, it's 5 weights. It's like a thin, demi-thin, normal, bold, demi-bold, and bold.
Okay.
There are 5 weights.
Ah.
And a interesting fact in font industry is that it is impossible that you press the B button and you can make this font bold.
Right. Somebody has to actually put the work in and design
somebody, in fact, a group of people have to put extra work on this to produce another font, which is a bold font. So that's a different font.
It's a totally different font.
It's a totally different font. So basically, there are 5 fonts inside the Justfont family, and if you do the math, you need 2 years for a font. So you could calculate just how many years we need to complete the entire Justfont family. But of course, there are trials and errors in design process. In the 2-year time span, there could be trial and error. But if we have complete a single font, we could spend less time exploring how to make the other font. So I could say that making the second and the third
should be a little
easier, but it won't be too easy.
I see. Yeah. I see. All right, so your designers are working hard. They're gonna start on this huge project.
Okay.
When is the first font gonna come out?
Okay, and the first font is going to come out in 2016, in the August of 2016. Yeah.
Okay, so not too long, but then each additional font is also going to take a big chunk of time.
Yeah, big chunk of time. Like the second font will be released in 2017 in October.
Right, so maybe we'll be seeing a lot more diversity and selection coming to Taiwan someday soon. But for today, we have been talking to Winston Su. He is the co-founder of Justfont. Winston, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Keith. Thank you, everybody.
You can learn more about the project and the ongoing crowdfunding campaign, which, by the way, is wrapping up this Thursday, at justfont.com. Thanks for listening to Taiwan Talk for ICRT. I'm Keith Manconi.